Good evening. Prior to us coming back into our open session, we would like to call attention to the fact that if anyone is needing translation service, Ms. Paula Balbuena is at the podium and would like to tell us about that translation.
Thank you, President Brown. Buenas tardes, habla Paula Balbuena. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, por favor llame al 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 319-325-912, más la tecla numeral. Este es un número totalmente gratis. Nuevamente, llame al número de teléfono 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 319-325-912 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones en nuestro sitio web mcs4kids.com dirigiéndose a la parte inferior de la página, haciendo clic en Quick Links y haciendo clic nuevamente en Board Agendas para ir a la agenda de esta noche. O si no, estaré sentada en la parte de atrás. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Balbuena. Welcome to Modesto City Schools' 1,487th regular board meeting of January 17th, 2023. This meeting is now called to order. We just came from closed session. We received information, but no vote was taken. And now I'd like to ask everyone to stand for and join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. This open session meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. Live stream is available on the district's website, and the recordings will be available for viewing the day after the board meeting. Modesto City School Board meetings have been adjusted to follow health and safety precautions until further notice. And now regarding public comment, Modesto City Schools has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comments. It's outlined on the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to either call in or leave a voicemail, or send us a comment via email, or appear in person before the board. Any public comments received via email or voicemail following the posting of the board agenda and prior to noon the day of the board meeting will not be read aloud, but have been transcribed and printed with copies provided to each board member prior to the start of the board meeting and are available to the public. The voice and email public comments will be attached to a future board meeting minutes for approval. And this practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. So if you wish to address the board during the public period for public comment on a subject that is not on the agenda, you must complete a public presentation request card and submit it to the board president prior to the period for public comment. If you need assistance from our translator, please indicate so on the request card. Every person who wishes to address the board, please fill out one of these cards. You'll find them in the lobby, and you can hand your card to Ms. Sanchez Lopez in the back. You can see her waving in the back corner. And also would like to remind you that if you wish to make a complaint against a specific district employee, you should follow the district's personnel complaint procedure. Copies of that procedure are available in the lobby, as are agenda copies which outline the procedures we will observe during the period for public comment. The right to address the board does not exempt the speaker from any potential liability for defamation. If you plan to speak on a topic, please fill that out on the card now, and we will not be able to accept any cards after the period of public comment has begun. The maximum time for any speaker will be 3 minutes, and we've set aside up to 30 minutes for the public comment. So now we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. We're pleased to welcome 2 students today from Orville Wright Elementary School to lead us in the flag salute. And first of all, as I call your name, would you stand? 6th grader Alvaro Davalos. Sixth grader Alvaro is the student council president and a member of the Traffic Safety Patrol. He's a dedicated reader and a top scholar in class. Alvaro enjoys football, basketball, and soccer. He hopes to attend the University of Michigan, where he would like to join the Wolverine football team. Following college, Alvaro would like to be a football player or a robotic engineer. Also, we have Sofia Pendalosa. Sophia is also a 6th grader, and she is the Activities Director for Student Council. She has received the Student of the Month award every school year since the 2nd grade. She is an outstanding scholar who continues to show improvement through all areas of her academics. Sophia would like to attend California State University Stanislaus to pursue an education in becoming a veterinarian or a 5th grade classroom teacher. Students, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next, we'll move to item A5 on our agenda, our superintendent welcome and announcements. Dr. Noguchi.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, President Brown. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming out again this evening, and welcome to those that are at home in the comforts of their home. Always appreciate it when community and parents and students come to the board meetings and listen to the great work that we're doing, and also hear your voice and your questions, your comments, your concerns. I really would like to report out on 2 things today. The first is I want to take a special acknowledgement to our recognition of the Bond Committee tonight. So we are recognizing the hard work from a committee that we call the Bond Committee that really worked hard at working to get Measure L, which is our high school bond, passed. Without their hard work and their dedication, and also the voters of this community, we wouldn't be in the position that we are now, and currently we have $198 million that we're going to be able to put into 7 high schools. This work is going to make a significant difference for the lives of our students for decades to come. So I just wanted to make sure that I give a special thanks to that work and for all the many, many, many hours and even more hours worrying about it. So thank you to that. The next thing I want to talk about is an opportunity that's coming this Thursday. This Thursday, we have an event that We've entitled Inspire Youth, Inspire Dreams. It is an expo for our 8th grade students from all over our district and also our feeder districts. Our 8th graders will have the opportunity to go downtown and have the opportunity to look at 65 different career technical education pathways, along with looking at and getting information from many local business partners in future job needs and opportunities. So I think this is going to be great for our kids. It's open for our students with reservations from 9:30 to 3. Then it's going to close down for an hour and give people a break for an hour. And then it's going to open back up to the community and to the parents and to anyone else that would like to see the good work of our CTE programs and also our partners. And our partners in this work is MJC, County Office of Ed, Institute of Technology, and of course the Chamber, which has also been a vital partner. So before I close, I would like to give a special thank you to Rachel Barkas, because I know that she's done a lot of work to make this happen. It's a big party, and as you all know, parties take a lot to organize, and this one certainly has a lot of moving parts, so I want to give a special thank you to her.
Thank you, Rachel.
So with that, I'll turn it back over to President Brown.
Yes, now we have item A8, A7, excuse me. The Board of Education member reports. Do any board members have any reports of meetings they've attended that they'd like to share with us? So, Trustee Marks?
Thank you so much. I attended the Clergy Council meeting last month and before we went on our break, and it was so great to have our PIO officer, Linda Muma Solario, attend also, and we were able to share some of the great things that are going on in our school district. And just to let you know, the people, those that attend that, the Clergy Council is the mayor, the police chief, the sheriff's department sends, either he comes or he sends, the sheriff comes or he sends someone. The California Highway Patrol, the district attorney's office, Birgit Flatiger, she was there, the Family Justice Center, and then of course many clergy council as well. So it's a great time for us to be able to share what's happening in our school district, share ideas that are happening in the community and concerns that law enforcement might have or the clergy might have, so that we might work together on solving those problems. And then we also, and celebrate the things that are good that are happening too. So that's kind of fun to hear the good things. And then of course, a few of us, Trustee Irvin and I, and our superintendent, Sarah Noguchi, and our associate superintendent, Brad Godot, were also at the Martin Luther King celebration yesterday, which was a great event. I love going to that. And our own John Irvin received an award yesterday from the James Anderson Freedom Award. I think that was the title, but I couldn't quite remember the title of it, but it was so great. James Anderson is the former pastor of the church. So we congratulate John on his receipt of that. And his family was there. It was so great to see your family too, and just all the celebrations that happened yesterday at the Martin Luther King Day celebration at Christian Love Baptist Church.
Great, thank you. And Vice President Irvin?
Yes, as Trustee Marks just mentioned, I was at the Martin Luther King celebration yesterday, which is in its 30-plus years. So I was glad to be there and glad to see Modesto City Schools well represented there as well. And then I also attended another MLK celebration in March that was happening over at the King Kennedy Center, and they had a community service event over there as well, where they recognize folks in the community as well. And so it was good to see that. It was the first annual Martin Luther King March, so it looks like they'll be doing marches again next year and the year after, and so forth. So looking forward to that. And that's my report. Thank you.
Any other trustees? I would like to report that I attended a meeting of the Stanislaus County School Boards Association. I serve on that committee. And a couple of things of note coming from that meeting. There is a new board member workshop on the 29th. I believe our new board member is going to be attending that. And also, is it?
I think it's the 30th.
We'll get that date.
Yep.
And make sure that she knows.
Yes, she
the
does. We're
correct
both
date.
scheduled for it.
Good. And I should have checked my calendar because I'm going to be on the panel there, so. And also, coming up on April 27th is the annual school boards dinner. And would like to reach out. We have the opportunity for one of our schools to provide the floral arrangements through our floral classes. And just need to talk to Dr. Noguchi about which school that would be this time. We need to make sure that a school that has not had that opportunity recently is represented. And I'll make sure that the connections are made for that. All right.
Trustee Brown, I'd like to add an additional comment. I left this out inadvertently. Trustee Daly does send her regrets for not being here tonight. She had a vacation scheduled for the last 6 months and this board meeting happened to fall on a Tuesday as opposed to a Monday, so she sends her regards, but she will be here at the next board meeting.
Thank you. So next on the agenda, item A8 is board recognitions. And I'll turn the time now over to Linda Muma-Solorio.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and of course, all of our MCS families and community members that are here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a couple of recognitions tonight, and this is the time where we get to show our appreciation for the hard work, the dedication, and also the innovation by our outstanding scholars, our teachers, and our staff. And a quick reminder to our presenters tonight that when you come to read the nomination, you stand with your nominee, and then of course, I'm going to practice what I preach here, face the audience so that they can see and also hear you. First up, we have the Character Ed Award. Tonight, we are celebrating an exceptional Enoch Scholar, 10th grade student Deanna Vu, for the Character Trait Initiative. Classroom teacher Christina Hobson nominated Deanna, and Principal Justin Woodbridge and Ms. Hobson are both here tonight to read the nomination, so come and join me.
Hello, everyone. I have the privilege of introducing Deanna Vu to you guys. Deanna is consistently going above and beyond in all of her classes, not just the classes that I have had the privilege of teaching with her. She currently holds a 4.0 GPA with a weighted GPA of 4.16. In my classroom, she has always consistently been ready to participate, provides excellent work output, and is always just incredibly kind to everyone around her. In my Intro to Physical Science class, she exhibited leadership skills that were just beyond her age group in all of her group work, in her presentations, and she always adds a flair of creativity to everything. Currently, she is in my CP biology class, so I get to have her for my second year in a row. I'm so lucky. And it has just been that to the next level with even that much more maturity and success. And again, her kindness is never failing. But the thing is that not only is she just incredibly successful and wonderful and kind, she's also very humble, very, very humble. And because of this quiet success and humility, I really wanted us to honor her wins and recognize her for all that she has accomplished. She's not the first person to jump out and tell you how awesome she is. So I knew that she needed to have someone to be here to talk about how amazing she is here and in front of this board. Deanna is going to change the world in some way, one way or another, and is extremely deserving of this recognition. So, thank you.
I'd like to invite Trustee Lopez to join Dr. Noguchi for the photo.
And next tonight, we will celebrate our MCS hero, and tonight we are recognizing classroom teacher Franny Hartley at Johansen High School. Franny was nominated by Principal Nathan Shar, who is also here tonight to read the nomination. You're going to love her story.
I forgot my speech, but most people in the room will know that I don't usually need one. No, it's okay. Franny is a ceramics teacher at our school. She is absolutely fantastic, and that's not why she's an MCS hero, although most of her kids would probably say that she is because she is wonderful in the classroom. However, on Thanksgiving this year, where most people are frantic and they're preparing things for the Thanksgiving feast, they realized that they were short of some groceries, so they had to take a road trip to go to the grocery store for Thanksgiving, which if any of you have been out there, it's a horrible thing. But while they're focused on going to the grocery store, they notice a fire. And there was a travel trailer that was on fire, and her sister, friends, and the people she was with, they jumped out and they wanted to do something about it. They checked the trailer, they went to the house, they couldn't find anybody. And when they got back to the trailer, there was a woman who was badly burned falling out of the trailer. And Franny was there to, in my mind, save her and comfort her and take care of her and call 911 until the rescue truly came and put out the fire. But not many people in this world would stop when they see that fire, and they would just keep driving. But not Franny, because she is truly a hero, not only at Johansen, but for Modesto too. So we truly appreciate Franny. You're welcome.
I'd like to invite Trustee Lopez to join Dr. Noguchi for the photo.
Of course. There you go.
Pulling double duty tonight with the photos and the announcements. Lastly, tonight's special recognition, I would like to invite Associate Superintendent and Chief Business Official Tim Zierli up to recognize the Yes on L for All Modesto Students Group.
I'd like to invite the Board of Trustees down to greet the committee members that are here. Thank you.
We can do this.
As Dr. Noguchi mentioned in her announcements earlier on, it's been 21 years since Modesto City Schools has passed a high school bond measure. And on behalf of Modesto City Schools, it's an honor to recognize the committee for their time spent on the Yes on L for All Modesto Students campaign. It takes a talented and dedicated team to pass a school bond measure. Yes on L for All Modesto Students consisted of individuals that donated countless hours of personal time volunteering for the benefit of our students. Their efforts, including seeking endorsements, placing yard and large business signs, and walking voter precincts, all contributed to a successful bond election this past November. And we have a certificate of recognition for those committee members that are here. We're going to go through the list of names. Many of them I don't think could make it tonight, but you'll just see as we go through the list the number of people that it took to volunteer their times for a successful bond campaign. The first one is Jay Casey. I don't believe Jay Casey is here. Brad Godot is here. Cameron Gwynn, don't believe is here. Stephanie Gwynn as well. Shy Lloyd. David Madrigal. Blake Matan is here. Krista Noonan. Jennifer Aller. Roger Orth. Derek Penley. Oh, Derek Penley. Chris Peterson. Carol Serpa. Talcott. Jeffrey Talcott. Ulysses Vasquez. Gladys Williams. Savannah Williams. Here. And Lynn Zwallen. We also have representatives that are standing in line here. So as you hear your name, Dr. Sarah Noguchi. Thank you. Trustee John Irvin.
Go shake some hands.
Trustee Adolfo Lopez. Trustee Omero Mejia. And Trustee Chad Brown.
There you go.
And we can't, is it still
Give him
on?
this one.
Oh, this one. We cannot forget Tim Zerly.
Thank you.
And that concludes tonight's recognitions. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is item A9, the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any comments from the public regarding any items that are on the consent agenda? Seeing none.
Trustee Brown, it's been requested that we pull C11 and move it to the bottom of the discussion items. So C11 will now move it to B 7.
That would be C10.
C10. C10.
All right, thank you.
And the reason for it, and I know that we're supposed to share why we want it pulled, the reason for it is it's actually on this agenda, it's placed in the wrong section. It's not supposed to be for approval, it's supposed to be for discussion. And additionally, board members had questions about it, and so we'll just give an opportunity to be able to bring voice to it.
Great, thank you. So we'll bring that to item B7, what was on the agenda as item C10. All right. So
Just a clarification, is it C11 and could you read out the title for me? Is it approval of increase to the current Modesto City Schools self-bus services agreement?
No,
Is that what
it's C10.
So. Oh, I don't have that, okay. Okay, thank you. It wasn't on mine.
You're looking at B, that's why.
Oh, you're right, okay.
So do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda with that correction? Motion by trustee Lopez, second by trustee Mejia. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next will be the approval of the order of discussion action items.
And here again, we need to pull an item, which is B2, approval of acceptance of the district's 2021 to 22 financial statements and auditor report. We'll bring this back at a subsequent board meeting. We had an illness and the presenter's unable to be here.
All right. So do I have a motion to approve the order of discussion as it's now amended? I move. Okay, motion by trustee Mejia, second by trustee Marks. Those in favor? Aye. And that was unanimous, so the motion carries. We'll now move to the period for public presentations. And want to thank you for attending tonight's meeting and showing interest in our schools. I have, I believe, 4 cards for tonight, and I ask each speaker to come to the podium and address the board. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. So first, we have, I believe it's Timmy Garcia.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Timmy Garcia. I am here as an educator, athletic director at Davis High School, football coach, and proud GDHS alumni. I truly believe that there isn't anyone on our campus or in the city of Modesto that cares more about Davis High School than I do. I'm here to hopefully start the conversation of supporting Grace M. Davis High School as we come to some important decisions as a district in both the areas of boundary changes and Measure L school bond. I want you to know that I'm here with a sincere hope and approach to help improve our school and our district in any way I possibly can, to give our kids the best experiences possible as an MCS student. Boundary changes. I hope that you can consider leaving the areas of Insulan and Martone currently within the school boundaries of Davis High School. These 2 areas help support our school in so many ways, brings quality families to Davis High School. By removing these neighborhoods from Davis High, it will continue to have a negative impact and continue to create a bigger equity issue among MCS schools, in my opinion. Not only in the classroom, but on campus culture and in the athletic arena. Measure L. I truly believe that this is a do or die opportunity to save our school. We will not get these funds, as we heard earlier, for probably another 20 years. This is a game changer, and our site needs life support. Not just fixing normal wear and tear items, but a big ticket move that will be a game changer for the community of Davis High School and Modesto City Schools. Our students, teachers, and Spartan community hope that we can be part of the plan for facility improvements, new construction, that will give us a lifeline to help improve public perception and give the Spartan community a sense of pride, excitement, and get our neighborhood kids back into our seats. I was very fortunate to be there during the glory days in the late 90s. And this was the place to be. As you walk through the community of Modesto and surrounding neighborhoods, everybody went to Davis High. This will help our student culture and give us a sense of pride again. Graduation on campus, hosting football and soccer and track events on campus will generate the excitement and help generate funds for the athletic budget. A new athletic facility like Grigori, not only on our campus, but on other campuses in MCS, I think could be a game changer that will be there forever. I'm not only here to talk about our school, I'm here to talk about Modesto City Schools. And coming from our neighborhood and being a Modesto guy for the last 40 years and being a Davis person, I take tremendous pride in being here. And I want not only our campus, but our district to be something that everybody can be proud of. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Next, we have Jamie DeRollo.
Bring it down here. Hello, hello, you guys. I am Dr. Jamie DeRollo. I have a clinical doctorate in athletic training. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I'm also a parent. I have 2 students that are currently in Modesto City Schools and another one that will be there in a couple of years. And what I'm here to talk to you guys about today is athletic training. It's been in the news cycle. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of Damar Hamlin with the football injury that happened on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago. Currently, none of the schools in Modesto City Schools has an athletic trainer for any of their athletic teams. Athletic trainers it used to be a bachelor's degree, but now it is a master's degree. 70% of athletic trainers do have their master's and have gone on to have doctorates. I am the head athletic trainer and a faculty member at Modesto Junior College, and I should have been up here well before to advocate for this, but COVID and everything else. With athletic training, there are so many things that athletic trainers can do for the student athletes. There's prevention, such as giving them strengthening and stretching programs, taping for prophylactic. Another domain is evaluation. So when you guys see any professional sports, the people that run out on the fields with the cool fanny packs, not so cool, but that's what we do. We evaluate, assess, and determine if it's okay for the athlete to safely go back into participation of their sport. Often we are the ones that provide first aid and CPR in an emergency basis. Another domain is rehabilitation. So quite often people really know about physical therapists. Sports medicine or athletic training is very similar, but more in the sports realm. And then we also have our administration and organization, the unfun part, the documentation, so we don't get sued and all that fun stuff. I am here to request that you guys look into hiring athletic trainers. If that's not possible, I highly encourage you to look into CTE programs with a sports medicine avenue or venue. It can definitely help any of the Modesto City Schools that do have athletics. There are a couple that do hire per diem athletic trainers, stereotypically for football. I would caution you guys and make sure that you have verified that those people that are acting or saying that they're athletic trainers, that they do have that education and background behind it, because right now, California is the only state that doesn't have licensure. So unfortunately, there are people who don't have that education or who have gotten their licenses taken away from other schools. I would encourage you to also communicate with Turlock School District, because they've had an athletic trainer at Turlock High since the 80s, and then once Pittman came around, they do also have an athletic trainer there. I thank you guys for your time and welcome any opportunity to talk about athletic training and or sports medicine.
Thank you, Dr. DeRollo. Next up is Gladys Williams.
Good evening. I truly believe that we are a destination district, and we've been very fortunate that we have not had some really severe discrimination and racism going on in our district. I ask that we adopt putting up the Not in Our Town posters as a proactive rather than waiting for a reactive situation to happen, that we start letting people know that hate is not allowed in our school district. And so I ask that you look into adopting the poster. I've given that to Mark. And if we can have the board have that on the agenda to approve it, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next up is Aaron Anguiano.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the president of the Latino Community Roundtable. I'm Aaron Anguiano. I'm here because I also care that this becomes the destination district. And to become the destination district is like, okay, you need preparation and opportunity. It's just like luck. We go hunting, and when we're lucky, we prepare and we have the opportunity. And but anyways, I'm here to support Tim Garcia about athletics, Davis High. Some of those fields need to be fixed. Some of those fences that are crooked or in disrepair need to be repaired. And then also I want to say the same thing about Downey and Modesto High. Those fields need to be fixed. And because we want to make the children feel proud of playing there. You know, it's like a privilege to play in a baseball team. My son is in the tryouts right now. Stand up, Adrian. Like, this is Adrian. He talked to you 2 years ago, and he was this tall, so a little taller now. And he speaks better than me. He got an ovation. I never do. But anyways, so besides the baseball fields, and as usual, I'm here to remind you to pass a policy on mastery grading or standards-based grading. And you already have it in the elementary schools. You see, I already went full circle now, since 2 years ago when I saw how we grade in the secondary schools. And in the elementary school, they test our children, because I have one in first grade now. And you have these numbers, and you can average them, whatever, traditionally. But then the teacher says, okay, you get a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4. 4 is like your A+. And so you got a 3, you're fine. And so we worry when they have a 1 and a 2, and it's March or April. But I was thinking, well, why can't we just have the same policy in the post-secondary schools, in the secondary schools? And done deal. The teachers are already used to it. You can even have some of those teachers from the secondary schools talk to the elementary schools. But anyways, I'm advocating for mastery grading. The University of California has been advocating for it for a couple of years. And I read a letter that is 15 pages. Okay, anyways, the other thing is I want to make sure, and why I'm going to be here very often, besides Debbie Martinez, who represents LCR, about equitable policies. Every time you pass a policy, I want to see that it passes the equity test from now on. And we're going to hold you to it in public if we have to. And we're going to be outspoken. And that's our board directive. And besides that, I like 5 minutes sometimes because we have so much to say as members of the community and representatives of the community. A long time ago, it used to be 5 minutes until one of your presidents decided there was going to be 3 minutes because you had it with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anguiano. So again, we cannot engage in discussion or take formal action on items that are not on the agenda, but we thank you for following the protocol and addressing the board and taking time to share your views with us this evening. So we'll now move to our discussion and action items. The very first item there is our report from our student representative. Student Representative Patel.
Thank you, President Brown. Good evening, everyone. I hope you've all had a great day. Since coming back to school, the Inter-High Council has met once, and a few schools showed up. It was right off the bat after winter break. But Enoch's had just reported that they completed their winter formal and they are working on homecoming. And they are thinking of some fun themes. Like Modesto High and Grigori, they're also working on homecoming. Modesto High School's theme is music genres, so they have a little bit of fun dress-up days going on there. So their homecoming is in 2 weeks, and Grigori's is in 2 weeks as well, and their theme is movies. I think it's like Tim Burton movies, so it should be pretty interesting. Davis High School is planning a murder mystery dinner. And I think this includes staff and students, so it'll be a good time for them to, engage in an extracurricular activity, but also have a fun night. And they're also working on their winter formal and their homecoming. Some things that we continue to discuss were seeing programs or courses within, changes in graduation requirements or other CTE programs they would like to see that we could suggest to the board or a committee. We also talked about how we can better approach student voice to reach all individuals through a certain platform, just to see, how students can better understand what the board does, better understand what their leadership classes do, and how they can probably get involved in those if they're not informed about them. We also discussed a little bit about the dress code, which, speaking of which, I just heard that we are having our first survey come out tomorrow. So if any teachers or staff or students are listening, they should check their Schoology tomorrow to please provide their voice and fill out the dress code survey so we can get a better perspective and better understanding of how students stand on our current dress code. And with that, that concludes my board report. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Representative Patel. So just point out that item B2 on the agenda has been pulled. So we'll move now to our new B2, which was B3, which is a progress report on early implementation of student services administrators. And this is Ms. Hinkle.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Board President Brown, trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, cabinet, and guests. My name is Danielle Hinkle, Senior Director of Student Support Services, and I am incredibly excited to be here this evening to present on the Student Services Administrators. The purpose of my presentation is to provide a progress report of the early implementation of the new Student Services Administrator, or SSA, position in Modesto City Schools. My report will provide background on the creation of the SSA position and describe their primary areas of administrative oversight at our junior high and high school sites. I will share information about the professional development provided to the SSAs and share the list of data elements that the SSAs review and strive to improve as a member of the site's administrative team. I will share out our next steps, and we'll also hear from a couple of special guests, a few words of testimonial on the site's SSA position. The work of the Student Services Administrator is primarily focused on District Goal 1, which is to increase academic achievement and ensure equitable access to enable all students to attain college and career readiness. All right, before I actually get into this report, I would like to take this opportunity to truly thank the members of our Board of Education for approving the Student Services Administrator positions last year. In the spring, it was part of our LCAP, and as you'll hear, the Student Services Administrators have been truly instrumental as a member of the site's administrative team at our 712 school sites. The SSA position is an entry-level administrator position that was implemented beginning this school year in 2022-23. Prior to implementation, feedback from our principals indicated a great need for some additional administrative support and expertise in some of our highest priority areas. These areas include direct support and leadership for our school counseling programs, also special education and the needed interventions for students. Principals also identified the need for additional support in the supervision of co- and extracurricular activities outside of the school day. And with the Student Services Administrator focused primarily on our students and their needed supports, this truly frees up time for not only the principal, but also our assistant principals to be more closely involved in the instructional practices that are occurring in our classrooms. With the Student Services Administrators, their areas of oversight include many things, but I'm highlighting several here on this slide. First and foremost, providing leadership and direction for counseling services on the campus. That includes everything with our school and college counselors in the areas of academics and college and career, as well as our social emotional counseling services that are provided by our contracted partners at the Center for Human Services. The SSA is the expert, if you will, on the various support providers there. Supporting and providing direction to the site's health services staff, such as the school nurse, health clerk, and medical procedure specialist, is also in the SSA's area of oversight. Along with our special education program managers, the SSA supports the monitoring of legal compliance for our students with disabilities, as well as placement of paraprofessionals in special education classrooms. The SSA is also a regular member of the IEP team for students. Our Student Services Administrators also keep a very close eye on our at-promise youth and their associated programmatic supports. These students include not only our English learners, which is a very large focus area for the team, but also our foster and homeless youth. Lastly, the Student Services Administrator also serves on the Site Intervention Team, also called SIT. And I'll be sharing a little bit more information and detail on the SSA's involvement with the SIT process later in this presentation. With most all of our SSAs being new to administration and many new to Modesto City Schools, we set up a very robust professional development plan where SELPA Director, Dr. Christy Allen, and I provide training and support every other week, bi-weekly. On this slide, you can see some of the training topics that we have provided to ensure that the SSAs have the needed support to be the student services expert on their campus. So you can see things on there like supporting the site counseling team, Section 504, IEP processes, foster and homeless youth, and many, many more training topics. Christy and I are incredibly proud of and enjoy these collaborative training sessions with the SSAs, and I'm happy to share that mid-year survey data indicates that the SSAs consider this specialized training and support to be outstanding in their development as new administrators in Modesto City Schools. Like all of us, the Student Services Administrators also are involved in the regular review and monitoring of a number of data points. The SSAs are a regular member of the Graduation Rate and Intervention Team, or GRIT. I think the board was able to hear a presentation on that a couple of months back. And the SSAs are deeply involved in improving student outcomes. Graduation progress is monitored beginning in the student's 9th grade year. As a matter of fact, with first semester grades now finalized, the SSAs are reviewing data with the site's counselors as they hone in on students who may need to retake a course in which they earned a low or failed grade. In addition to graduation, progress in meeting CSU and UC A through G requirements and CTE pathway completion are also monitored. And for students who may have chronic absenteeism or perhaps even stopped coming to school, the SSA supports the work of the counselors and site intervention team in providing outreach and intervention to re-engage students in school and prevent them from dropping out. This re-engagement could be at the site, the comprehensive site, or perhaps in one of our educational options such as G230 or even adult education. While the SSAs support in the monitoring of a number of data points, I wanted to share a little bit more context for the site intervention team. And as mentioned, I also refer to that as SIT. SAT. The SIT process actually began last school year, so that was prior to our SSAs coming on board. And we really consider that to be an innovative process for early identification of struggling students. SIT teams truly began at a time when we had our junior high and, well, all of our students coming back full-time from the pandemic. And we realized that some of our previously successful students were now experiencing a need for additional academic support as well as behavioral and social emotional support. So the SIT teams, which are now led by the SSA and the students counselor, the teams are structured as bi-weekly meetings where the team briefly reviews the student's situation. The team then determines what we call quick strike interventions to address the areas of need. The team then continues to meet on the student every 2 weeks to determine the effectiveness of the intervention. And teams then fine-tune interventions either until the performance of the student has improved or when more intensive support is needed. The team then refers the student to the more formalized student success team or SST process. And as you can see at the very bottom of this slide, the data, if we're looking at our data on our SIT team meetings, for the first half of this school year, under the direction of the SSAs, they held more than 1,000 meetings for 330 students. And that is an increase from the prior year, last year, when we first started the SIT process, where we had approximately 645 meetings for 227 students by the middle of the year. Last year, when our assistant principals were the only ones involved in the SIT process, they were spread pretty thin, and as they supported students, or I should say as they continue to help support students through SIT, they're feeling some needed relief with the addition of the Student Services Administrator this year. I do want to share a little bit of data with you on the SIT meetings that we've held so far this year. In looking at this slide, the first circle graph shows the breakdown of grade level for students brought forward to the SIT process. And as you can see, primarily 9th and 10th grade students. Again, working to be proactive as students begin their high school careers in an effort to provide some needed intervention and support before they become a senior and are significantly off track without a chance to graduate. The second circle graph shows the ethnic breakdown of students served, and this closely resembles that of our district, with Hispanic students being the largest group served in the SIT process. On this second slide of data, when we're looking at the English proficiency level of students that are served, our English learners and English-only students are the highest students or percentage of students represented in our SIT process. And then lastly, you can see the referral reasons when students are brought forward for the SIT team, with academics being the highest referral reason. Anecdotally, I'd like to share that our SSAs and counselors have indicated that they truly appreciate this time to be proactive in their support for students who are beginning to struggle. Our students who are involved, they have also shared that they appreciate the outreach and support of the team, and it gives them a sense of feeling that adults on campus truly care about their well-being and how they're doing. As I wrap up the data information about site intervention teams, I also want to include that, I don't have a slide on it, but part of this SIT process is the team rates the effectiveness of the interventions. It's not enough to just meet and say we're going to do X, Y, or Z, but how effective are these interventions that we are providing to students? The team, when they provide the interventions, when they meet 2 weeks later on the same student, they rate how effective was this? Are we seeing some improvements yet? Do we still need to fine tune our processes? What do we need to do to support the student? So they rate the interventions on a 4-point rubric, with 4 being highly successful, all the way down to a level 1, which is not successful at all. And I'll give a super quick example. One example might be if the site intervention team is meeting on a student with a number of absences or increased absences, the team will review the situation, they will implement interventions. It could be something like sending the attendance liaison out to the home, perhaps contacting the parent, inviting the student in to figure out, why is it that the student isn't coming to school, to provide those needed supports. Then when the team comes back together 2 weeks later, they discuss what transpired, determine if any tweaks are needed at all, and then rate the effectiveness. Fine-tuning of these interventions continues to take place, and then after a number of meetings on the same student, one of 2 things occurs. Either the interventions will have proven successful with a rating of a 3, which is successful, or 4, highly successful, or if week after week we're seeing that we're still not having an impact on the student, then the SIT team would refer the student to the more formalized Student Success Team, or SST process. So again, just taking that proactive approach with the SIT process to catch students before they are truly in a dire need situation. In looking at the overall effectiveness data across our district, I'm proud to share that the overall ranking is a 2.3, which is between somewhat successful and successful. Keep in mind, some of our students do need that additional support, which is the SST process. The ranking of 2.3 to me indicates that we are seeing success with early identification of students, with the support and interventions. And again, with that goal of hopefully providing those early interventions so the student doesn't have to go to that more formalized SST process. Alrighty, next steps. So next steps for our Student Services Administrator position involves obviously providing continued professional development to ensure that they are the true experts on campus with regard to student services. And of course, we will continue to monitor the student data to ensure that students are not only graduating from high school, but also working to achieve their post-secondary goals. And before I go to the next slide, which is the question slide, I would like to invite Johansson's principal, Nathan Shar, and their site's SSA, Ton Shafran, up to the podium for a few words.
Just a few words. President Brown, just a few. Good evening, President Brown, board members, Dr. Noguchi, cabinet. I'm here specifically to say thank you. This is an absolutely outstanding program. This is an amazing addition to what we have at Johansson. I can only speak for Johansson, but I do know my fellow principals are very appreciative of this too. There's a lot of time that goes into taking care of our kids, our students at the high schools. With all the interventions that are coming in that we're trying to provide, Danielle has explained, the SIT meeting specifically, but also the IEPs and the 504s and the SSTs. This is a time-staking process that goes through. And when we only have 3 assistant principals and they have to take care of the 300 special ed students that we have, 300 plus special ed students, plus another 100 504s, plus all the SSTs that happen, this gets them out of the classroom. They don't get to be out with the kids during lunchtime. They can't be there during passing periods. So behaviors will go up, issues start happening at school. But with the addition of the SSA, and we are blessed to have Ton Shafran here because she has a wealth of knowledge coming from the counseling world in Tracy. It just lets us get into the classrooms, and that's our job. We're being told all the time that we are the instructional leaders on campus, but we are stuck in meetings, which are important, which are extremely important for those individual kids, but we weren't there for the teachers as much as we should have been. And this gives us the opportunity to get into every classroom almost every week. We're working with the teachers, we're working with students. It just frees up our time to help the schools improve overall. So that's my testimonial.
Well, and I think I can speak on behalf of all the SSAs. Thank you, first of all, for just even being open to hearing about this potential opportunity that probably was presented about a year ago. and to just really kind of keep an open mind, and to really, to be able to see the needs that, you know, at the school level, the other site leadership, A-team, is what we call ourselves, is needed. But it's been a great experience. Coming from a smaller district, speaking personally, I felt like I was kind of not capped out in my career growth, where I was at, but in a way I was. And so when this position was presented, first of all, I wasn't looking. I knew nothing about it. When I found out about it, I realized that, yes, there is a need. This is something that every district should have, just because it's an extra layer of not just management, but support for not just students, other staff, the school community as a whole. It's been a great experience. The professional development is top notch. I mean, you know, after each meeting, I'd come home with like, oh my gosh, there's just so much to learn, but yet at the same time, there's a need for it. So I just want to thank you. I mean, it's been great. I'm continually to learn. I mean, it's going to be an ongoing thing. This is a ground floor opportunity that already in 5 months, I can see the impact that it's making. That was my biggest concern was, will I be able to still work with students? You know, I want to still be in touch with my counseling roots, and the answer is definitely yes. So, thank you.
All right. Wow. That was an awesome testimonial. With that, I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So first of all, are there any questions or comments from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, are there comments or questions from the board? And I see Vice President Irvin would like to speak.
Yes, yeah, it sounds amazing to be able to lighten the load on the principals and the vice principals in order to focus, have somebody with a focus on students directly in terms of providing that extra support that they need to be successful. So anything that enhances their chances for success is definitely needed. My question is that are all the SSAs in position now? All the schools are
Yes.
filled? Oh, okay.
I'm happy to report that on day one of this school year, we had everyone hired and ready to go.
Okay. And everyone's gone through the training, you know, the
Yes.
professional development?
Every other week, Dr. Ellen, who's in the audience, she and I take turns, and we provide professional development topics every 2 weeks to the group of SSAs, and it's a great collaborative and interactive training that we provide for them.
Okay. Thank you. Good job.
Oh.
Need to apologize. I pressed the wrong button and lost the names in the queue. Were you next? Yeah, put it back. Okay, thank you. Trustee Mastis, and then Trustee Marks.
Thank you. I appreciate the focus on providing support for individual students and interventions, catching kids before they fall through the cracks, and also just trying to provide those services for them. And specifically understanding that there are two big things that happen in our schools, and that's instruction and the need for SEL and intervention and connection with kids. And providing that space for our instructional leaders to be leaders in instruction, because that's needed also. We got to catch all kids too, and then focus the kids that need the support. So I really appreciate allowing our instructional leaders to really become, really spend their time in the instruction and with the teachers and supporting that piece. So Trustee Vice President Irvin had said all of our asked about all of our SSAs being hired. Just for specificity, we have one at each high school, or is it 712? How many are in each school across our district?
We have an SSA position at every junior high and high school site, comprehensive high school site.
Okay, so just one, that would be Elliott, right?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have plans in the future for something like that?
So
I know it's small, but
I will say that one of the assistant principals at Elliott, Mr. Gregory Hicks, he considers himself to kind of fill that role of being that student services administrator and expert. And so Mr. Hicks is invited and regularly attends our SSA professional development. And I would say that even though he doesn't have that formalized title of SSA, he truly is the lead. He is the lead for supporting the school counselors at Elliott, and does a great job in supporting students with all the various supports that kids need.
okay. And then I have one question. You didn't talk about this at all, and if you can just give a little bit of voice to on the data review in monitoring success. One of the items that they monitor is equity and AP and honors course enrollments. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So how the SSAs would be involved with that? Well, first and foremost, Mr. Herbst is on the equity, leading the charge of equity committee and review of data. But for example, right now we're getting ready to roll into the balloting season with all of our students, where students are selecting courses for the next school year. And so where they might be involved with AP Equity is as students sign up for the courses that they have an interest in, looking at the types of students that are enrolled. Do we need to do an additional outreach to specific students or even student groups? Oftentimes we have students who might not feel confident to take an AP course. They need a nudge, a friendly face to say, we believe in you. Your past history indicates that you could be very successful in that. And so the SSAs, along with the counselors, would be instrumental in doing that.
Do they work with the teachers at all on those kind of recommendations?
Well, we haven't rolled into the balloting season yet, and this is their first year, but absolutely, the SSAs could be deeply involved with the encouragement, working with teachers to encourage students who've demonstrated success to try for that higher level course.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to hear all the great information on what's happening and how we're helping support our students. So I had a couple of questions. So because I noticed that the students that were attending or that were identified were mostly in 10th grade, I was surprised that it wasn't in 9th grade because that seems like a key transition in 8th grade. So just wondering how that took place.
I will share that if you're thinking about the freshman class, for example, they began in the fall in September, and yes, there might have been some early warning signs that those students were beginning to struggle, but if we're thinking about academics, we just got to the end of first semester with teachers assigning first semester grades. I would fully anticipate an uptick in the number of 9th graders going through the SIT process. Now that we've got some grades under the belt, et cetera, we may have identified kiddos that need support in that area.
Okay, and then I have another question. I was just looking at, so my understanding is there's probably 11 SSAs, is that correct? 10 or
Yes.
11?
She's
Okay.
making me do the math. We actually, I did not mention this when you asked about the number. Mark Twain actually has a second student services administrator that was provided as additional support to that site as they undergo trying to make some radical change and improvement for students at the school site. So we actually have 12 SSAs.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's okay. I was just trying to see because that's 30 students per SSA. So I was just trying to understand how fast it will grow. So,
Yes, it absolutely has the potential to grow significantly, and I fully expect that to grow as we progress through the second part of the school year. Students can be referred to the site intervention team process really by anyone at the school site, but primarily it's the counselor who is bringing forward a name, or perhaps if you have a student who might be struggling with behavioral issues in the classroom, it might be a teacher or even another assistant principal. But I think our goal really is to me, it's more about really providing high quality interventions to a select number of students versus meeting on a ton of students but not providing that high level of quality to really impact change for that kiddo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Student Representative Patel.
So I just want to get a little bit more clarification on the position of an SAS.
Sure.
So from my understanding, they, work to assist with the, tasks that would have been otherwise, tasked to the assistant vice principals or the principals themselves
Right.
or the counselors.
Primarily, they aren't doing the work of the counselor. They are leading and supporting the work of the counselors and providing a high level of expertise in supporting the work of the counselors that they might not have done prior to that with the assistant principals. So they are taking off a load or a portion of work that was previously distributed to the other assistant principals or principal.
Okay, so since the implementation of the SSAs, have there been more accessibility for students to reach out to their counselors? Since I know that previously it was difficult for students to reach their counselors because of the high workload burden. Do you have any data or idea of if students have been able to communicate with their counselors more effectively now?
I do not have that data here today. It's absolutely something we could look at, but I will say that, in the last 2 years, we have worked to increase the number of school counselors at our school sites. And our student services administrators are, of course, monitoring the effectiveness of the school counseling team and working to refine the efficiency of the school counseling department so that students' needs are met.
Okay. And then just a final question. With the site intervention teams, you talked about some professional development that you provide. I just wanted to see what kind of professional development was provided to the SSAs regarding health services, like what type of services are provided there, and if a student comes in presenting with, let's say, a mental health situation, what type of support would be provided in that scenario?
So health services involves not only like medical health. So we provided the SSAs with training so that they had a full understanding of the staff persons on their school site, the school nurse, what the school nurse does, her scope of work, the health clerks, any medical procedure specialists who supports students with disabilities. But the other area or arena of what I would consider health services is in the area of mental health. So we have a number of providers that are contracted through the Center for Human Services, and they are on our high school sites, and they provide that layer of social emotional support, counseling support. And so with the SSAs, we, in our training, made sure that they fully understood the roles of the different providers, how students would be referred to those services, and what that process looked like. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that did. Thank
Okay.
you.
And Trustee Lopez.
Yes, thank you for the report. One thing that stood out to me, and what I wanted to learn more about was in this process, is there any opportunities in terms of what is that tipping point where we start to see the effectiveness of the meetings increase? So, because on average, we're looking at between last year to this year on the midway mark, about 2.8, 3.06 average meeting per student, right? But I'm pretty sure that there's ones that have come in once, there's some that have come in probably 4 or 5 times. So have we looked at where is that tipping point where the effectiveness is more clearly?
That is data that we could pull. I could look at like the average number of meetings, for the students across. It's not one that we have looked at yet. Every student is different. And so I would say that at a minimum, the site intervention team meets 2 times on a student. You're going to meet that first time to kind of discuss, hey, what's going on? What kind of interventions or support does the student need? Okay, let's deploy those. Then at a minimum, meet 2 weeks later. And now if there was a rapid turnaround, which I would say is probably not the case yet, 2 weeks is a pretty short period of time. But if it was something that rapidly improved and the team felt confident that that improvement would be sustained, then they might exit the student from that site intervention team process. But you're absolutely right. You have kids that they're meeting on 2, 3, 4 times. And you have some where once they get past a certain number of sessions meeting on the student and they feel like the interventions are not having an impact, they would refer the student then to that next more formalized process, which is the SST, Student Success Team process. Bigger team of professionals, perhaps do look at some different assessments, et cetera.
Right, got it. No, it definitely, we want to meet with the students as much as possible,
Yeah.
or whatever they need, right? I just wanted to know, like, where do we start to see that improvement in certain students, right? If there's a trend, right?
Right.
Not to, cookie cutter the services, but also to understand, the thing that we've known for a long time, the most contact you have with a student, I was saying patients will work, but with students, the more successful you are, right? So I just wanted to know that data. The other part is like the work with Center for Human Services is so important because we see here, I would say we have 65% social emotional referral, but you add behavioral, and that's also social emotional many of the time. So you're talking about a student's well-being probably is 76% of our referrals, right?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for the
Thank you.
report.
Thank you for your comments. I just want to let you know how effective I think it was to bring in the testimonials from Johansson. To hear the effectiveness of what's happening on that campus really helps us understand what's happening and what the potential is. So thank you for this
Right,
presentation.
thank you.
So next on the agenda, we have item B3, which is progress report on early implement, no? Is it number 4? Okay. Report on arts, music, and instructional materials, the discretionary block grant. And I'm sorry, I don't have your name.
Okay. I'm Dr. Sarah Olson, Senior Director in CIPD.
Well, thank you, Dr. Olson. We look forward to your presentation.
Good evening, Board President Brown, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and members of the public. As I mentioned, I'm Dr. Sarah Olson, Senior Director of CIPD, Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development. Tonight, I'll be sharing with you about some exciting news for our district and our students regarding the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Block Grant. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to review the information for the AMIM grant, to compare and contrast the grant to Proposition 28, outline recommended funding expenditures, and answer any questions related to the AMIM grant. The district goal alignment for tonight's report is district goal number 1, which is increase academic achievement and ensure equitable access to enable all students to attain college and career readiness. I would like to begin with an overview of the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Grant. On September 27th, 2022, Governor Newsom approved AB 185, which granted final approval for the AMIM grant. This grant was provided without the need for us to apply for the grant. Funds from the grant must be approved by the local Board of Education prior to use, and they can be expended through the 2025-2026 school year. Essentially, we have approximately 3.5 years to spend our allocated funds. This additional funding allows us to capitalize on arts and music education and provide opportunities we would not normally be able to provide for our students. Modesto City Schools received half of the funding in December of 2022, and we will receive the other half in late May of 2023. As you can see, our current district funding for elementary is a little over $8 million, and district funding for high school is almost $9 million. There are some parameters that come with the funding allocations. The name of the grant is deceiving because the funding can be used for things outside of arts, music, and instructional materials, but the funds provided through this grant may be used on standards-aligned instructional materials and professional development, improving school climate, diverse, culturally relevant, and multilingual libraries, operational costs, and costs related to COVID-19. As a district, prior to receiving the funding provided by the AMIM grant, we began the work of improving school climate, developing diverse, culturally relevant, and multilingual libraries, and continuing the work of providing professional development to staff and providing standards-aligned instructional materials. The funding from this grant provides us opportunities to expand these areas even further to support our students across the district and ensure equitable access for our students. I would also like to provide some information about Proposition 28, which is additional great news for our arts programs. Proposition 28 is additional funding that was provided by voters in November. The passing of this proposition provides regular, ongoing funds for arts education. Funding for this proposition starts in the 2023-2024 school year and has certain criteria on how the funding can be used, including not supplanting any of our current offerings, and 80% must be spent on staffing, which means we do not want to cross over with any of the expenditures for the AMIM grant. I've provided this table as a visual to compare some of the key components of each of the funding sources. The AMIM grant is one-time funding, while Proposition 28 funding is ongoing every year. Proposition 28 funding must be used for arts, and the AMIM grant funding can be extended beyond the arts. AMIM grant funding must be used by 2025-2026 school year. Proposition 28 funding allows 3 years after funding to spend that year's amount, with additional funding allocated every year. The AMIM grant allocation is one-time funding of approximately $16.9 million combined for our TK-12 programs. Proposition 28 provides approximately $5.2 million every year. AMIM grant funding can be used as needed based on the 5 areas I mentioned earlier in the presentation, while Proposition 28 funding cannot supplant any of our current offerings. If Prop 28 didn't pass in November, we would be spending our AMIM grant funding differently. And we will present more information on Proposition 28 as the state releases further guidance on how we can spend the money. In working with Michelle Price and Tim Zerley, we've identified areas that free up the general fund and supplemental concentration fund to allow for dollars to be spent in other areas. Some of these areas include instructional materials specialists, classroom upgrades, including TK classrooms, professional development for staff, one-time equipment upgrades for arts instruction, and providing experiences for students for arts education. An example of this would be our upcoming combined high school marching band trip to Washington, D.C. this summer. Here in this table, we've listed recommended funding expenditures for the AMIM grant funding. Some of the key pieces of this funding include continuing professional development and instructional coaches that will be funded due to the sunsetting of AB 86, which ends in September 2023. We're also considering funds to be used for upgrades to classroom equipment and theaters, in addition to all the other things that are listed there, but I don't think you want me to go through each of those. All right, that concludes my information. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Dr. Olson. Do we have any comments from the community? I see a couple of people. Please come forward.
I have a question or a few questions. One of them is...
Can you go to the microphone, please?
One of the questions I have is, like, what kind of arts and programs would you have or do you have? What kind of classes would you offer to the children to use this monies for?
So, Mr. Arguano, this isn't a time for questions and answers. You can you can have a comment. We can get back to you as far as the
Oh, okay.
program. What these dollars are going to be used for is enhancing what we already currently have. And so it's not adding more to it. But we can take your question and then we'll have somebody reach out to you tomorrow to be able to specifically answer it for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we have this funding now available, or a one-time funding, right? Is it just one time for one of the grants? And the other monies are yearly, like 5
So,
million?
Mr. Arguano, this isn't a time for discussion and a
I'm
discussion back
not
and forth. with
discussing,
staff.
you asked if we have questions. So I have
Yeah.
a question about, what is the program and the monies we're getting? Because when my children went to school, well, the older ones, now I have one in first grade, there's no painting, like, can you offer a painting class? The classes in music, the children could not afford instruments. And then some people had to rent them, and some people cannot even afford it. I even felt like donating some of my money to buy equipment or instruments for the elementary school. And in junior high, I think they also need help. So I just want to know, like, okay, well, how are you going to use this money? That was my question. I think it's a fair question. Am I out of bounds, really?
So what I can do for you, Mr. Arguano, is I'll have Mr. Rich reach out to you tomorrow. What you are going to see in this next 2-3 years is going to be completely transformational for TK-12. And it's ongoing dollars because the voters have approved Prop 28. So you are going to see a significant amount of investment, $5 million a year, in the arts and music area. But
Yeah,
I'll
I
have
voted-
Mr. Rich reach out to you because we have your phone number.
I voted for that too, yes. So, and also my son is going to Davis. He used to play sax in junior high. Now he can because, the schedule, and he also in the medical academy or medical science academy. But I heard there was no band at Davis, but I'm not sure if it was before or now or whatever is going on. But of course, we're very concerned about music, and that's why I voted for it. And I welcome the opportunity for children to play in bands and music because it's really important. It really teaches them a lot. Learning music is not an easy thing. So thank you.
Our next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Gina Gergich. I have multiple hats on today. I'm a sixth grade teacher at Sonoma Elementary. I'm also a parent. I am also on the executive board of the Enox High School Music Boosters. So I have lots of hats on. I was really excited to read the PowerPoint that when it was published because this is big for us. This is huge, and my mind is a flurry of all the things that are going to be great for this. As an elementary school teacher, Katrina Van Waldrop at Sonoma has a huge music program. She was here earlier tonight, but the amount of stuff that they do and the amount of kids that are involved. I mean, music class happens and half my class walks out. I'm like, oh, well, there they all went because they're all in music. So to be able to expand this and make it more and buy new instruments is going to be huge for them. As a parent whose children went to Sonoma and La Loma and now at Enox, and they're all involved in music and chorus, this will be huge for us. The Enox Music Boosters alone raise $50,000 to $60,000 a year to put on our music program. That's huge. It's a huge amount of money. I spent many hours in a fireworks booth. It's hot, right? So the fact to have maybe some of that burden taken off of us, to open this up for more kids at more schools, because not all of the schools can get a booster board together with all these parents to spend all of these hours to do this. So this makes me really excited. My child is also going to the Washington, D.C. trip for marching band. So that's going to be huge and a huge difference for us. So I love where this is going. Mike, you can always call me. I'll be on any committee that you need to help decide how this money is going out. This is huge for us, and it makes me as a parent, as a booster, as a teacher, really, really excited to see all those changes. And I was at Bayer High School in the marching band. I was a piccolo player and oboe player. So this is exciting for me. So I can't wait to see what we're going to do with all of this. So, and on behalf of my fellow booster parents, they would have been here, but they are in a booster meeting tonight. So I was their chosen representative to come. They are literally sitting in a meeting probably right now at Bayer waiting to hear my report on all of this. So we appreciate it. I'm so excited for music and the arts. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And we have another speaker.
Last year, I had the joy of working with third graders at Bret Harte doing music theory and the recorder. And as a result, this year we have over 100 children in either string or instruments. And that came from them having that exposure for an entire year, being able to have the song recorders, learn about notes, and learn that music theory. And we got some really good players out of that last year. And the exciting part was that they got to take those home. We have that again this year, and I really want to thank you for that investment in doing that. But in December, I met with some scholars from Henshaw, and they are heartbroken because they're not getting music. And I am begging you to please put the music back in, because our 8th graders who will go to high school next year will be so far behind, they will not be able to continue their music because they've missed a year. Hopefully, our 7th graders next year will be able to make up for the loss of this year. But it's crucial that we have that music program at that school for our scholars. So with everything you've got, I'm excited to hear about this grant and this money going to the arts, because arts are a very important part of our academic curriculum. And I thank you for that, but I'm pleading with you to be sure that we get music back at that junior high school, because we have 6th graders who will go there next year, and we have 46 graders who are in music now, 40, and they will all go to that school. Thank you.
Thank you. Now returning to the board, any questions or comments? I see Trustee Maestas.
Thank you. Okay. So, all right, I'll ask my question in a second. I teared up a bit when parent came and teacher, what was your name again? Gergich, Ms. Gergich. My kids are in music. I was just talking how they're all playing in rock, like they're all in rock band. They all play something. We just changed our office to a music room. That's how music is so important in my family. And this is huge. I can't imagine, there's so many kids that go to school. We talked about this a few board meetings ago. They go to school for sports. Like, that's why they come to school. I want to play basketball. I want to play football. There are a lot of kids that go to school for music. I want to play in my band. Or art. And so it's so important. We need to have music in every school because the music, the arts are so important to keep kids engaged. But they also help their mental health, and it helps in academics. It's all research. So I'm excited to see where we go with Prop 28 especially. And I like this list of expenditures here that we have for the AMIM grant. It's hard for me to even think about it if we didn't have music in our lives in my house. I don't know where my kids would be right now. There's one item here that I have a question about. The top expenditure specialist 1 instructional materials 2.0. Is that an ongoing position? And this is a grant, so we only have one-time funds. How is that going to continue to be funded, especially since Prop 28, we can't use Prop 28 money to fund any positions that are within this grant. So what's the future of that position, and can you explain that position just a little bit for us?
I'll take that question.
Thanks.
So in our library services division, one of the things that the grant allows us to do is improve libraries and the books that we have available, and we have a need for some extra help there, particularly for the elementary sites. So we're going to use this grant as far as we can to help with that position, and then we'll have to look at maybe other funding sources when we get down the road for that position as it grows or progresses. But you are correct, we cannot supplement or supplant rather a position that we pay with the grant that we pay with Prop 28. That's why you don't see a lot of people or positions FTE in this, because 80% of Prop 28 has to be spent on people. So we're trying to spend this on maybe one-time expenditures. And so you're right, that is the only position that we have an FTE associated with it. And after 3.5 years, we'll have to evaluate it and then look for another funding source if we're going to continue it.
Thank you. Can I ask one more question? It might be a little specific, but not really. And I know we're still waiting on guidance from the state on how to spend Prop 28 money. There are some schools out there that have put in their own money, either by parent groups or other groups, to bring in outside consultants for art and theater and things like that, they pay to have a group, right? Are those things that we could look into funding in Prop 28 instead of an outside source spending the money on that?
Absolutely. So the staffing does not have to be certificated. It can be in many forms. And right now, all the guidance we have is from the voter registration guide for Prop 28. The state hasn't released kind of the official guidelines yet, but we absolutely think we can do that, not just for music, like you've said, but for dance, for theater, for visual arts. We feel that we'll be able to really ramp up what we're able to offer kids.
That's excellent news. Thank you.
Great, Trustee Lopez, and then Trustee Marks. Oh, well. I keep pushing the wrong button and erasing things, so I apologize. Go ahead, Trustee Irvin.
I just wanted to, and it's kind of on the same line as Trustee Maestas. So we have some groups, and I'm going to name one specific because I know them well. We used to fund them with after-school money. But the Ballet Folklorico, Los Falcones over at Fairview. Now, could we help fund them as they work with our students to teach the arts of ballet folklorico and things like that? With the ongoing funding, or one-time funding, would probably be better for the ongoing funding.
We would want to fund that out of Prop 28, and yes, we believe we can fund that out of Prop 28.
Oh, okay.
That would be an option that we could do.
Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, next, Trustee Marks.
Thank you. All right. I'm super excited about this. I was here in the Great Recession and saw us cut everything. And music and art was like one of the first things that came off the table. And it was so sad because we had parents and families crying, and it was just such an awful thing to have to go through in our district. And I kept hoping someday we'll bring it back, someday. And here we have a multiple amount of funding to be able to do that. So I'm so excited to see this. And then I wanted to find out, now you talked about classroom equipment and I was wondering if that included new instruments, and because I know this has been a huge issue in our community, trying to raise money and finding instruments that were used to be able to purchase. And so is this going to cover that? I just didn't see it on here. I wasn't sure if it was, it says MVA instruments and equipment, but I didn't see actually instruments for in this list. So do we know?
We currently spend $150,000 every year on new instruments.
Okay.
And so we regularly replace those. Part of the issue is when kids have instruments, that learning process of taking care of them, and they have a lot of wear and tear. We have high standards for which instruments we'll buy so that they will last. Prop 28 money, we don't want to use AMIM grant money and then say, hey, we can't use Prop 28 money for that. So we will augment what our the instrument supply money, if you will, with not only what we're currently paying, but with Prop 28 money as well.
Okay, yeah. I know it's going to be a little complicated because some of it's says, yes, you can keep using this, the grant money, but the Prop 28, which has got its own
Yeah, we asked for,
really restricted stuff.
we asked for specific guidance from the state on if we pay it with a grant, does that consider supplemental,
Right.
because we're doing it at the same time?
Yeah.
And they have not gotten back to us.
Okay, yeah, I know, it'll take them a little while.
Yeah.
There was a lot of rules that changed the last of the year for businesses, and figuring that out was really complicated for us. But one other thing I wanted to say, I'm so excited too to see the amount that we're doing for the Gallo Center for the Arts, because I recall when we used to do that, it was ongoing for all of our students to be able to participate at some point at the Gallo Center. And so this looks like they'll be able to do that almost every year, at least all the way up. Is that correct? I'm
Correct.
hoping.
One of the things we'd like to see them do is if possible, and again, this would, scheduling and everything involved in that, would be to host some of these events that we've traditionally done elsewhere, hosted at the Gallo, so that the children can perform in a real professional venue.
Yes, and touring all of that
Yeah.
behind the scenes is really, it gives kids another viewpoint of what art really is on the stage and how it's different than what they're seeing on television. So that's really, I'm excited to see how we're going to do this, and then adding in some of those wonderful programs that we have had in the past, like Folklorico and maybe some mariachi bands and, different ethnic music that we haven't done in the past, which I'd like to see us incorporate into our district. So this will be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing where we're going with all this.
Great. Trustee Lopez.
Thank you. I was gonna, the reason why I wanted to get on the mic was to highlight that specific, the Gallo Center, and, just the great thing that it would do for our students. I remember I happened to go, what was it, 6 months ago? 5 months ago, I got to see a great performance by Vice President Irvin, and it was just moved, and I was moved just knowing, I'm like, by the story itself, but just seeing my my colleague up there, so I can just imagine, students being up there, seeing their parents in the crowd, or seeing their other fellow students out there, and being in a professional setting. That's going to be great. Just a little thing on music and the arts is just, you don't know, we don't know the impact it'll have. I'm not artistically gifted in any capacity, but I know that, like, one of the way that my sixth grade teacher engaged me into school a little bit was, he would get us into listening to the Beatles, the early version of the Beatles. But and it stuck around. At least now, it's one of the things I'm always listening to. So the arts can go a long way. So very excited for the work that we have going on.
Student Representative Patel, did you have a question or comment?
So I think having this is great. Myself, I play the piano, so I think this is amazing for kids who love music, especially. Specifically with music and some art courses, will this grant include having higher level courses for the music or arts, or does that come in a different category?
You want to take this one? If we increase if we have to spend 80%, so the grant not per se, but the Prop 28, if we have to spend 80% on staffing, means we'll have to add more arts and music instructors to the sites, which would lead to an increase in the catalog that they could offer, whether it be quantity or quality, depending on what the site would need.
Okay, I was just wondering, because I know a lot of the times for music especially, there's just like the intro or at least the first few levels that are offered, but I know that a lot of students would benefit being able to perform in higher level arts courses. So thank you.
Vice President Irvin, you had a comment?
Yes, one more, last one. And like I said, I noticed that we had the Gallo Center on there as well, but I also would like to plug in the State Theater, older historical venue. I've performed there, and it's a good venue to host events, theater and art, music and things like that. They've done renovations over the years, and so I just wanted to say we have that historic State Theater here as well, which can be a learning and a teaching lesson as well to students.
Well, thank you, Dr. Olson. I am very excited to see the support that we're receiving from the state finally. My wife has a master's degree in arts education, and she has just been so depressed about what we are not offering to our students and how the arts can enhance the academic instruction that we have for all of our kids at every level. And to think that Prop 28 passed with such strong public support, I hope that allows us to continue without that ever being taken away. So we look forward to all the great things that are happening now and will happen with Prop 28 as it begins implementation next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we'll move on to item B, I believe it's still B4. The public notice to approve the waiver request of California Education Code 44253.11 to submit waiver request to the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Mr. Henderson.
Almost exciting as the last item. Trustee Brown, good evening. Board President Brown, trustees, Dr. Noguchi, and Cabinet. Item B4 is a waiver request related to a credentialing requirement for 2 certificated instructors as required for the Commission for Teacher Credentialing. In this case, it applies to 2 CTE teachers who are proficient in their respective industries but don't yet have formal pedagogical training in instructing English learners. Upon approval, this waiver covers the requirement while they complete coursework as part of the process of clearing their respective credentials. We recommend that the board approve this item.
All right, any comments from the public? Seeing none, comments or questions from the board? Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by trustee Mejia, second by trustee Maestas. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I didn't catch in my field of vision everybody's hand. So thank you, that motion carries unanimously. And we'll move to item B6, the approval of resolution number 2223-17, certifying all proceedings in the November 8, 2022 general obligation bond measure.
Actually, we need to go back to B5.
Oh.
You're moving ahead fast.
Oh, I went too far.
No problem.
So this one then is
B5.
B5, public notice to approve the submission of provisional internship permit to the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Mr. Henderson.
Yes, thank you. Item B5 serves as public notice to approve the submission of a provisional intern permits to the CTC. The district makes every effort to hire candidates who are fully credentialed. However, in some cases, due to need and teacher shortages, we do hire individuals who are in the process of completing requirements and working towards securing their preliminary credentials. This can be a function of the need for high demand, low supply, or highly specialized positions, the timing of vacancies, and the need to fill positions mid-year, and other factors. In this case, 2 employees are in the process of completing requirements for their multiple subject credential, and 1 additional employee is completing requirements for her special education credential. Upon approval, this permit authorizes the employees in their respective assignments while they complete working toward credentialing requirements. And again, we recommend the board approve this item.
Right, any comments from the public? Comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve this item? Motion by trustee Mejia, second by trustee Maestas. Those in favor? Aye. And that passes unanimously. All right. So item B6. Are we on B7? Okay,
It's
I'm-
on B6, approval of resolution number 2223-17.
Okay. This is certifying all proceedings in the November 8th, 2022 general obligation bond, Measure L?
Yes.
Okay, and I presume that is Mr. Zerly.
Yes, thank you, President Brown. Good evening, trustees. On November 8th, 2022, the voters for Modesto City High School District approved the issuance of bonds for the district in the amount of $198 million, known as Measure L. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve resolution number 23-17, certifying all proceedings in the November 8th, 2022 general obligation bond, Measure L election.
Great. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Quick action, trustee Marks has the motion with a second by Vice President Irvin. Those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Thank you. Now, see if I can get this one right. Next item, B7, brings item C10 from our consent agenda to the board for discussion. And I'm looking to see if I have.
And C10 was the report on construction projects, progress payments. And then we'll turn it over to Mr. Zierli.
Okay, so do we have anyone from the board that wanted to make a comment, or anyone from the public that wants to comment on that item? Seeing none, do we have comments from the board? Mr. Zerli, can you give us an explanation on that item?
Yeah, this agenda item is a report that the board receives every board meeting for progress on our construction payments to our various contractors. The board has already previously taken action to award the bids for these contracts, and so we give the board monthly or periodically, depending on the board meeting, progress payment reports. And I apologize, this was put in consent agenda. There is no approval of these payments. The board has already authorized payment with prior action, but this is just to inform the board of the progress payments to date. This should have been in section G, which is reports, but it was erroneously placed in section C for approval in the consent agenda.
Thank you for that clarification. So we don't need to take action on that item then?
No, no.
All right. Thank you very much. Does anyone from the public have comments about that or comments from the board? Thank you. I think that takes us now to items to be placed on future board agendas. Do we have anything?
So I just wanted to ask and see what you thought, but there's, on D3, it says approval of the 22-23 revised school plans for student achievement. I didn't know if we're having a report on something that's similar to that, that will give us what we are doing for student achievement to improve student achievement. But since this was a school plans, it's filed with the state, it looks like. It's with the Office of State and Federal Programs in our office.
Right, those are the yearly school plans that every school has to do in order to be able to get state funding.
Oh, right.
It's just the regular ones. However, the next board meeting, we are doing a mid-year review, which it's an hour-and-a-half long presentation that we will chunk. We are going to have many members from our extended cabinet come and share their goals and their progress on their goals. And you're going to hear quite a bit about progress moving towards our strategic goals.
Perfect. I thought we were going to see it, but I thought, oh, it was in consent. Maybe we could have it in a report somehow.
It originally was planned for this board meeting, but I wanted the new trustee to be able to hear really what we're doing. It'll be a great opportunity for her to see the gravity of the work, and so that'll be at the next board meeting.
Perfect. And then I wanted to ask, and I missed the opportunity when we were talking about the SSAs, to see if we could have a report about the SSAs in a year, just to see where we are in, I didn't know if this is going to be an annual report that we're doing, but I'd like to see how the students are progressing, like a data chart. Like this is where they came in, this is where they exited, this is the progress that we made, and maybe some of those little blurbs of, this is how we helped with students with behavioral issues, or just to understand it better, because it's a new program. I want to understand it.
I think the gravity of the many new programs that we have, to isolate any one, I don't think really tells the story. At the end of the day, we're going to have to take a look at our graduation rates, our DNF rates, how students are progressing, and if they're not progressing, what interventions they had, and then we can take a look at the multiple new intervention programs that we put in as a result of the COVID dollars. I hear what you're saying. Want to keep that thought.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the presentation for at the next board meeting,
Okay.
and let's interject that in there to be able to get you the information that you need.
Okay, that's great.
Is that fair?
It was just it struck me as something that we might want to just keep an eye on. in the
It
future,
definitely
so
is
thank
something
you.
that I know I get quarterly reports on it, because if it's not working, then we don't need to spend those sorts of resources.
Right.
And we can put that in a communication to you as well.
Okay,
We
perfect.
get those in executive summaries. We can send you that executive summary.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've now concluded our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Have to hustle to beat this guy. So a motion by trustee Maestas, second by trustee Mejia. Those in favor? Aye. Aye? Let's go home. Thank you.